Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
I'm Kevin Blackwell, and I channel anyone and anything from any time in any dimension. Yeah, I think that I did have this ability as a child, but because of my background, it just never fully came to the surface until I was around 16.
Did anybody else in the family have this gift?
No, and I come from a pretty big family, but I seem to be the only one.
So let's just move forward here to 16 years old. What happened then?
I was a very smart kid, and I ended up skipping 2 grades and starting college at Columbia University when I was 15. I was an engineering major, science and math, very scientific, method and reality-based type person. Spring semester of my freshman year, literally overnight, I started seeing colors and hearing voices. First night, I was doing some exercises to utilize my subconscious mind, and there was a ball of purple light in the corner of the room, and it started to move toward me, and I screamed, and it went away. The second night, blue light appeared in the same space, and I thought the same thing was going to happen. It was going to come toward me, and I was going to scream, and it was going to go away. But instead of moving toward me, it spoke to me and introduced itself as Mary. She told me that she was happy to see me, happy that I could finally hear her again, and that she was excited about what I was here to do. And, you know, that moment changed my life. The purple light came back into the room and introduced itself as Jesus, and essentially said the same thing to me. And then over the next several months, just about anyone that you could think of introduced themselves to me. Krishna, Buddha. I had been raised in a Baptist family, and so some of these spirits that came to me I had never heard of before, but they all came to me and introduced themselves to me, and so I was kind of imprinted with this idea that energy wants to talk to you. And I think because I was an engineering major, that I deduced that if they could come and talk to me, then I should be able to go and talk to them. And so I learned at a pretty young age how to communicate with anyone that I wanted to communicate with.
So that's very interesting. So, you know, having, was it a degree in engineering?
I was pursuing engineering when this happened. Everything switched, and I ended up withdrawing from Columbia and traveling around the country for a couple of years, just trying to figure out what had happened to me and why.
Now, when did you tell your folks and your family this was happening to you?
I told them all right away that what was going on with me, and it wasn't received well. They thought that I was crazy or that I needed to focus on the incredible gift of being at Columbia at the age of 15 with a full scholarship. And so they just didn't want me to get distracted with what they considered to be questionable stuff. They were telling me lots of different things. They were kind of like introducing themselves to me and telling me about their personal history. And it was really fascinating. Like Jesus was talking to me about his brothers and sisters and his family and stuff like that. And I didn't, know that Jesus had a family. So it was really interesting to be able to corroborate some of the things that were being told to me. But they were telling me about their journey, about their path, and how excited they were about this time that we were living in, and how I had the opportunity to live in a different way.
Okay, and how many variations of different people were coming to you?
Just about anyone and anything that you can think of. And so, I talked to Jesus and Mary. Even though I was Baptist, I ended up talking to a lot of Catholic saints like St. Francis and St. Anthony and St. Teresa. I met Krishna, and I met Buddha. I met Gandhi. And so lots of different perspectives, but they all said very similar things, that they were happy and excited for me and about what I was here to do. That's really one thing that was really mind-blowing was, they seemed to revere me as much as I revered them. They were happy and excited to see me and wanted me to remember who I was.
When did you make the decision then? What was the decision then to leave the course, leave home, and get on the road?
Yeah, my decision was to try to understand what was happening to me and why. Why me, and what was I supposed to do with this? And in order for me to try to figure that out, I thought that I needed to go and leave Columbia and just travel around and go inside and listen to these voices and see where they wanted to take me.
What books were you reading at the time?
That's an interesting question. I was reading Richard Bach, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, Illusions, a couple of his books, Carlos Castaneda. I read a lot of the teachings of Don Juan. Those probably were the two authors that stood out the most. And some more mystical stuff like the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ and stuff like that.
When did you realize that you were channeling?
That's interesting. One of the first things I learned was that, we're made out of energy, and that every single entity, every single event has its own unique energy frequency. And I learned that if you tuned into different frequencies like a radio, that you could communicate with different beings. The word channeling probably didn't come into my vocabulary for a year or two after it first started happening.
How did it come into your vocabulary?
That's a good question. I'm trying trying to see if I can remember when I first heard the word channeling. In the beginning, it was all about talking and communicating with spirits, communicating with different beings. I think I first heard the word channeling when I was introduced to Jane Roberts in the Seth Speaks material. I think that's the first time I ever heard the word channeling.
What is channeling to you?
Channeling to me is opening yourself up to feel the energy and essence of different beings, and then being able to translate that energetic connection into words, into conversations, into messages. And so it's about making an energetic connection and translating that connection into communication.
Let's go forward then. You're on the road for a couple of years. Where's life taking you?
Where did life take me? I went from New York City, I went to Austin, Texas, and then to Los Angeles. I wanted to meditate. I wanted to become enlightened. And so it was a journey toward awakening and enlightenment. And so I kind of wandered around for those 2 years, reading books, visiting shrines, a lot of meditation, a lot of internal work, all with the goal of trying to understand what the messages meant to me personally, and what I was supposed to do with them.
Were you giving people readings?
In the beginning, I wouldn't say that I was giving people readings. I would say that I would talk to people and just started giving advice. I was able to understand their essence. When you can connect to a person's energy, to a person's soul, and communicate with that energy, then you can advise that person and give them a lot of insight into why they're here, how they can get back on their true path, and stuff like that. So I did a lot of unsolicited advising of people that I would meet or people that I knew in the beginning.
What was different, do you think, between your type of advice compared to a psychic medium?
My advice really was I would connect with their higher self or their soul and reflect back to them what it is that their soul wanted me to tell them. So I was kind of holding a mirror up to them so that they could see themselves more clearly. And then at the same time, I was able to connect with spirit guides and important people from their lives, like a psychic medium does. I was able to do that as well.
So again, moving forward, you're trusting the message. Is it telling you to keep where you are or to keep the moving? What would you ask them for advice for yourself? Let me ask you that.
No, that's still a problem of mine. Is that I don't always turn to this guidance to guide myself. I'm much more likely to open myself to these messages to help another person. than I am to help myself. But I'm getting better at that.
Why is that?
Well, I think that humanity, or human beings in general, have a problem with self-esteem and recognizing how great and amazing they are, and so because of that, we don't always avail ourselves of the incredible power and wisdom that's at our fingertips. I think it's a self-esteem issue.
What's this work providing for you?
It's providing me with amazing, wonderful, expanded perspective on why we are here, why this world was created. Different answers to questions we all have about, the universe, and whether there's only one, and is there really a God, and, fundamental questions I have answers to because I can open myself up to wisdom from all throughout the universe. And so it's been exciting. It's an expanded perspective.
But financially, did you want it to provide for you?
Oh, I didn't think of it as an opportunity to, I didn't think of making a career out of it in terms of, making money and financial rewards. It took a really, really long time for me to turn in that direction. And when I did, it was more out of necessity than anything else. And so I didn't start charging for readings or sessions until, I don't know, perhaps 10 years, 15 years after all of this happened to me when I was 16.
So if we were to sum up, okay, so let's still keep moving it forward. Let's move it forward. What has been the evolution of you for doing this work? Because obviously we're going to get into your illnesses, but because there's no free ticket, that's why I want to talk about it for. But where did your work take you? Was there marriage? Was there kids?
Yeah, I think that a lot of stuff happened to me when I was 16. So all of these incredible beings come to me and start telling me that they're excited about what I'm here to do. And so I assumed, as I said, that I thought I was meant to be a spiritual teacher like they were and follow in their footsteps. And so I knew that meant that at some time I would need to go through a dramatic dark night of the soul, like all of them went to at different points throughout their lives. And I was terrified about that. I didn't know if I could do that. And so I questioned all of them incessantly about their process of going through this dark night of the soul. And I think because I did that, I probably know more about the weaknesses and fears of all of these spiritual masters than anyone else, because that's what I was interested in. How did they do it? How did they get to where they needed to go? And I think because of that, I postponed my own journey through this dark night of the soul. And so I spent years bouncing back between trying to satisfy my family and, reconnect with this young, brilliant guy that got into college at the age of 15. And, so I continued my schooling and I tried to work in great jobs with great companies. And then there was another part of me that was, oh no, I need to find a way to answer this calling and utilize this gift that God has given me. And so I that had been given to me. And so I basically spent years bouncing back between those two different pathways, trying to be a traditional guy and trying to follow the spiritual calling. And basically that just caused me to live an ineffectual life because I wasn't devoting anything, my energies, toward following one path or the other totally. And so, yeah, I went through the motions of what most people go through. I got married, I had a couple of kids, I got divorced, I worked in a whole bunch of jobs that I didn't like, and so on and so forth. And so I did a lot of what most people do for many, many years until I couldn't anymore.
Thank you for being so honest. And when you couldn't anymore, what was the breakthrough then? You know, what happened was I started to get sick. You know, trying to follow two very disparate paths, and then in between trying to help everyone that crossed my path. And I just think the combination of all of those things caused my body to start to break down. And so I decided that I needed to move toward being true to my spirit. That maybe that would help prevent my body from breaking down. And, things went really, really well for a while. And then everything started to go wrong. Everything started to go wrong, and I tried to return to my life in the corporate world, and it just became really, really obvious that the universe had closed those doors to me, and I had no choice to jump into the abyss and undertake this dark night of the soul that I had been avoiding since I was 16 years old. And so finally in 2007, we're talking about almost 30 years after I first started hearing these voices. In 2007, I left the world behind and jumped into the abyss, which basically for me meant unhooking myself from all the different things that human beings hook themselves onto. And a month or two after I made that decision, I had an amazing awakening experience that changed my life. And what was that experience? Well, as I said, I had unhooked myself from everything, meaning, I stopped thinking about money. I stopped thinking about relationships. We fill our minds with all of these things that we must do and must focus on, and all it does is drain our energy. And so I went through the process of unhooking myself from everything that we hook ourselves onto. Relationships, earning money. I even stopped bathing, stopped worrying about eating. It was all about just going inside and allowing myself to simply be in the moment. And I was willing to let go of everything except, taking care of my kids. And
and so something went wrong, and I missed a child support payment, and my ex-wife and the kids had to move to a different location. And I remember having this conversation with my ex-wife, and I thought that what had happened was the worst possible thing that could happen to me. And she told me, stop being silly, that I have everything that I need, and so I got off the phone with her, and I was thinking the worst possible thing that I thought could happen had just happened. My lifestyle had affected the welfare of my kids. And I felt the worst possible thing that I thought could happen had happened. And my wife's voice kept ringing in my ears, that I have everything that I need, and that I am everything that I need. And I remember I went outside and I took a walk, and whenever I was stressed, I would always say, I'm in love with, and I would end that sentence with whatever woman I was interested in at the time, to kind of distract myself. But I was walking down the street, and I said, I'm in love with, and for the first time ever, I finished that sentence by saying, I'm in love with myself. And in the moment that I said that, I just connected totally and had an amazing awakening experience and felt one with everything in the universe. And, that totally changed my life.
So where did that take the work?
And so then it was really, it was like being born again. I had to start all over. All of a sudden, when you reach this feeling of oneness, the motivations, the things that motivate normal humans don't motivate you anymore. And it took me a while to figure out, what to do. I know that Eckhart Tolle in his first book talks about sitting around on park benches and in states of bliss, not knowing what to do, and that's really what my life was like immediately after the awakening experience. I ended up being homeless on the streets of New York for 6 months, just wandering around, trying to get used to this new state of awareness. And then a friend of mine from Austin, Texas, invited me to stay in Austin. And after a couple of months of just reconnecting with the world in Austin, I started speaking. And that's kind of where my new life started, and I became a speaker, traveling around from city to city, talking about different spiritual topics, and then doing one-on-one counseling sessions with people, in which I would channel their higher selves and their spirit guides for them.
How long did that last for?
It lasted, it was going really, really well. It lasted for about 4 years. And I was doing so well that I decided, instead of traveling from city to city, I would move to Las Vegas and, and have people come to see me to do weekend workshops and seminars and stuff like that. But as soon as I arrived in Las Vegas, I got sick, and my body kind of totally broke down.
Why do you think that was?
I think it was because I misinterpreted the messages that I received when I was 16 years old. It's kind of like if you have, if you're a 16-year-old boy and you have the spirit of Michael Jordan and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson, you know, if you had all of those spirits come to you and say, hey, we're so happy you can hear us, you know, you would automatically assume that they were inviting you to be a great basketball player. And I think that that is what happened to me when Jesus and Moses and Gandhi and Buddha and all of those people came to visit me. I assumed that they were inviting me to become a spiritual teacher like they had been. And so that is kind of what I dedicated my life to, especially after the awakening experience. But that's not what they said. What they said when I was 16 was that they were excited about what I was here to do. And so they weren't inviting me to follow their path of sacrifice or anything like that. What they really were inviting me to was to live an amazing life in alignment with all of the things that I was learning from them. And that, you know, so they had to stop me because I was really dedicated to the path of being a spiritual teacher. And so they really had to stop me dead in my tracks. And I think that that is part of what this illness has been about. Stopping me in my tracks so that I can go in a completely different direction and allow myself to live freely.
And is that what you're trying to do now?
Yeah, it's really interesting that this is happening at this moment. You know, I am still ill, but I'm definitely on the mend, more stable than I have been in a while. And I'm close to finishing my first book. And yeah, I think that I'm getting ready to simply be. To simply be.
And this time to look after yourself and also not to sacrifice yourself for nothing or no one.
Exactly. It's about me being true to my inner longing, which is to just have a blast, celebrate life, celebrate the amazing aspects of being human. Yeah, that's what I'm here to do.
And being an African American man as well, do you think you were given this gift to help your own community as well?
I do think that that it is not that it's meaningful that I'm African American and that I have these gifts. Yeah, I do think that I can help my community tremendously, and also I think that karmically, you know, I think that powerful messages of transformation will come from people of color in the world. We are one. I think that that's the most important message. We are one. We need to understand that literally and start living in a way that honors that truth, that we are one. And that's a powerful statement. We're not just one with one another, we're also one with God and, you know, one with the divine. I think that that is the most important message. I think a lot of the problems in the world are based on this belief that we are separate from one another and separate from God. So I think that we are one is the powerful message. But just as powerful is also the idea that we are unique expressions of the divine. So it's important for us to discover and express that uniqueness. The first being that comes through is the spirit of Mary Magdalene. But she doesn't come alone. She's with Isis and Mary, the mother of Jesus, but it's kind of Mary Magdalene's show right now. She's the one that wants to come through. And so you can, feel free to ask questions, but she definitely wants to start by she wants to recognize this moment. As evidence of the reemergence of the goddess. She wants to recognize that wants us to recognize that it's undeniable that women and that feminine energy will no longer allow itself to be held down and held back and suppressed. That the power of the goddess is the power that we need to address our problems, our issues throughout society. We have felt helpless in the face of our problems because we've only been utilizing half of our energy. And so it's time to reconnect with our feminine side, time to reconnect with our feelings and our heart, learn how to live from our heart, and those are all feminine values and feminine approaches to life. And she just wants us to recognize that this Me Too moment that is reverberating around the world is just one example of the reemergence of the power of the goddess. And that we should welcome. Its return.
And it's also a very special time right now, isn't it? With, well, firstly, thank you everyone that's in this room and that's coming through Kevin right now. It's truly appreciated for Kevin and for everyone. But yes, with what's going on with our president, well, not my president, but the USA president, and everything else, would it be true to say that in times beyond this understanding that women used to be the rulers?
Without a doubt, the history of humanity is much longer than scholars have taught us to believe. And yes, there have been times in which women were predominant in positions of power in the same way that men are today. Isis, this is very important. She wants us to understand that this moment in history in which men seem to have been the most powerful ones in positions of power, that this is a detour. It was a necessary detour because humanity needed to develop science and a scientific understanding of the world, and so then there needed to be a focus on the brain. There needed to be a focus on reason and logic. There needed to be a focus on masculine approaches to getting things done. And that helped to open the door to science and this technological revolution that we're currently in. But now that we've opened those doors, it's time to reconnect with the goddess. And so the goddess kind of willfully allowed itself to step into the background so that humanity could open the door of science and technology. But now that we've done so, we need to re-invite the goddess back into our lives and reconnect with the heart and feelings and our emotional intelligence.
There's so many leaders in this world right now that are seemingly taking us down a very dark path. But why has this happened on this planet right now for someone like Trump to come into power?
Well, what we need more than anything is disruption. We need disruption so that we can open the door to a new reality and a deeper and higher understanding. But in order for that to happen, the status quo needs to be broken in so many different ways and so many different areas. And so here in the United States, Donald Trump is most definitely a disruptor. He does things his own way, and he is seemingly, destroying or denigrating, long-standing institutions. But it's all about disruption so that a new reality can emerge, and you can see it all over the world with in the UK with the Brexit vote. Trump has destabilized the Middle East with his moving of the embassy. Have the crown prince in Saudi Arabia, doing things in a radically different way. And so what we're going to find in the coming years is more and more disruption, more and more destroying of the status quo, and also more and more hidden information coming to the surface. And so corruption will be exposed unexpectedly, and all of that will cause disruption so that new light can shine through these cracks in our facade.
Wow, that's such a powerful message. I mean, if you just look at well, I know you can't look at, but, CNN yesterday reporting, unidentified objects in the air from secret government files and stuff. There's disruption everywhere.
Exactly, yeah, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. We definitely need to reconnect with the fact that, it's a gigantic universe and we're not alone.
Okay, so why has Kevin had these illnesses right now?
One is the illnesses are designed to redirect Kevin's energies toward more joy, more freedom, more celebration. Another is for others to more easily see Kevin as a normal and regular human being, despite his abilities and his connection. It's very important that people recognize that he still is in a body. It's important that Kevin himself remembers that as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that message with Kevin. I know that's going to be really, really helpful for him. And why have you brought Kevin to me?
Kevin needs to scream. Kevin needs to tell his story. Kevin needs to start sharing his essence with the world instead of keeping it in the background while he tries to help others. And so he needs an outlet, a window to begin sharing his essence with the world. And you are providing that to him.
Well, I'm really grateful to be providing that to him as well, and to be working with yourselves as well. So, is it no coincidence that we've got the same name?
Of course not. Names carry a frequency, and there's never any such thing as coincidence.
So, what's my connection to Kevin then?
We both have a desire to share the great news of life and the gift of being human and wisdom from the other side. We both feel called.
Yes, that's so true. When he told me his story, I just felt such a resonance with his story, because I felt that that's me in another version, resisting the work sometimes. Has Kevin been brought to me to show me what can happen if the work is resisted?
Yeah, definitely. Kevin is an example of the folly of resistance. In the end, we're here to express, we're here to share, we're here to be, and to stop doing that, or to not do that out of politeness or out of insecurity or whatever the reason, it's it's folly, because in the end, especially in this time that we're living in, we're here to share, we're here to express, we're here to simply let our light shine.
Is Kevin part of my soul group?
Of course, the simple answer to that question is yes. A broader answer is there are a category of souls that can be called speakers or communicators, and of which we are both a part. Our DNA is to want to share cosmic messages with humanity.
In 50 years from now, will mankind make it? Or is there the chance that we may not make it?
It's important to recognize that the choices we make today have the power and the potential to be tragic if we're not careful. So it is important to recognize that our success is not guaranteed, that it's based on the decisions that we make. We have to actively choose light and life, and make decisions every day and take actions every day that affirm those choices. So we may or may not make it, which is why it's so critical for each of us to let our light shine.
Right, because for souls to come down here to have the human experience, I'm guessing it's kind of important.
Mm-hmm. Especially in this moment in human history, yeah.
With Kev's, I'm not going to call them issues like he's suffering, because this is his medical condition is teaching Kevin, isn't it?
Yeah, it's teaching him a lot. It's teaching him a lot.
So for those entities or those souls who will never have a human experience, is Kevin sharing his medical teachings, his medical condition, with those who will never get the chance to incarnate on this level?
There are we're humans walking on the face of the planet, are a very privileged group that other beings are very jealous of, and so they do live vicariously through us and learn from us and the issues that we face while on the planet. They're all extremely excited about everything that we do, everything that we decide, everything that we experience, and they really want us to share that with them.
Yes. And Kevin is sharing his conditions with other beings, and it's helping them to grow as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt, we face the challenges together and learn from those challenges together. It's very important to recognize that it truly is as above, so below, and vice versa. And so they learn from us as much as we learn from them. And we can never forget that.
That is so important, isn't it? That you that come through now, speaking through Kevin with Kevin's filter though, that it's important to note that you are as interested in us and learning from us as we are looking up to you.
Without a doubt. Kevin, has always had difficulty understanding why we are so excited to know him. And it's precisely because of what you say.
Have I come here to help heal Kevin with these words?
Yes, it's time for Kevin to stand straight again and allow his energy to flow freely again.
So let's look at the idea, because Kevin talked about this in the interview. I was listening. Kevin said that he mentioned the word parallel universes or something to that nature. Let's just go to a parallel universe where Kevin does not have these conditions. What could Kevin from a parallel universe, so we call him Kevin 2, the most significant Kevin, tell this Kevin something that would be helpful in this present moment to help him?
He's showing me advising me to consciously control and manipulate my energy.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, he's showing me how to heal my energy system.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
Thank you. I'm going to that's so helpful for Kevin. So helpful. And just out of curiosity, while we're still connected to Kevin too, what's different in his reality compared to this one? What's one major difference? Is it that maybe channeling is a bit bigger in his reality?
Yeah, in his reality, the connection with the other side, the veil, is definitely a lot thinner or almost non-existent. More people in his extended community are in contact with their essence and higher levels of consciousness. It's a more advanced world.
Is the channeling phenomena different?
Yeah. Everyone recognizes and knows that when they speak, it's not just them that are speaking. So they know that at different points, different energies can speak through them. And so, yeah, channeling is a constant thing.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And in the future, will you be able to connect with Kevin too? Will that be helpful at all?
Yeah, it's good to see a healthy Kevin. Yeah, this line of communication will stay open.
Well, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And does Kevin too have any sort of message for us in this reality as well?
Yeah, the essence of his message is freedom, and how it is critically important that we work to make sure that everyone is free, not oppressed, but free to learn, free to be, free access to information and resources. Freedom is the key for us to move to a higher level.
Speaking to Kevin, let's just explore what you've just done there as well, in the idea of parallel universes. Speaking to the connection and the guys that are with you right now, how many versions of Kevin are there out there in different parallel universes? Or is the number just too stupidly great?
It's too great. And it's too great, and it goes in different directions. There are Kevins in different universes, and then there are kind of like different versions of Kevin in this universe, based off of different decisions that it were made. So yeah, it gets really crazy, and we're just a lot bigger than we imagined.
Are any of those lives affecting Kevin in this one?
Yeah, some of them bleed through in both directions. Yeah, some from other lives and other dimensions. They come through in writing and in different types of inspirations. So yeah, there are some that influence me.
And what's one thing in this life that Kevin can do to help heal himself and these other lives as well? Is it simply in his decisions in this life to come from more love? Have fun?
Yeah, Kevin needs to express. He needs to express and enjoy and celebrate, and not hold himself back to fit in. He needs to live what he knows to be true. He needs to honor that and live from his highest wisdom.
Now, the words you've just spoken there, I think you could apply that to most people, though.
True. It's
So-
true.
So then what does that tell you about the nature of who we really are? We must all be one then.
Oh yeah, that is the number one truth, the foundational truth of all life is that we are one.
So when we look at the UFO phenomena then, or this understanding that there is life teeming in our galaxy, are we ready for, is that life in the galaxy, it's us expressing ourselves in different forms, isn't it?
Yeah, what you say is true. That's important for us to recognize.
Why? What would it do to what would it do for us as a species to know that there is us out there in a different form? But even just for those who don't even recognize that truth, just to know that there is more than just us, would that change us as a race?
Yeah, that would change everything to recognize that we are not alone. It would change everything. It would affect different people in different ways as well.
Why have they not made contact in a direct to everyone contact? Or do they?
Well, they're certainly here, and they're certainly in contact with different humans. But in terms of a mass introduction or reintroduction, humanity has not been ready for that. But hopefully we're moving toward a space where that will become a more open truth, that we are not alone in the universe. We truly were quarantined for a while from communication with beings from other planets. That quarantine has been lifted over the past few years, but the realization that we are not alone will be a gradual realization, as opposed to a sudden global revelation.
Thank you so much, thank you. And why is the understanding of the multi-dimensional aspect of ourselves coming through in most of the people that I'm interviewing? Why do you want to bring this through now?
It's very important for humanity to recognize that they're a lot bigger than they realize, that we are each cosmic beings with multiple dimensions. If we are one with God and one with the divine, then there's really no limit to who each of us are. And it ultimately might be easier for us to recognize other aspects of ourselves.
Amazing, amazing. Jesus. Just the same information coming through, everyone. This is so cool. That's beautiful. And thank you for that. Do we create this reality then?
We each create our own experience. Yes, we each create our own experience. And we collectively create this reality.
So just remind us again, why has Kevin created the experience he's having now?
The purpose of Kevin's current experience is to break certain habits and to liberate himself from limitation.
So we can create any reality we choose, or is there a plan of some sort that we have to that our soul brings through for us, or can we deviate from a plan if there is one?
That's a very, very significant question. We're each unique expressions of the divine, and so there's not any one answer. Some have a plan, some don't. Some, for some it would be good to live in alignment with their plan, and for others that's not as important. And so one needs to get in touch with oneself to determine what is best for them.
Would you always say in whatever okay, that's a great answer, thank you for that, but would you also say that whatever we do, we have to do it with fun and love? I kind of want to add here, sorry about this, I know you're tuning into the answer, but it almost feels like sometimes, can you have that in some circumstances? Because, you're presented with doing something and you've got to get on with it, but I suppose you could still do it with love and fun, maybe. Thank you.
Well, you just answered your question. You just answered your question. Certainly the world would move into a higher vibration if more and more people acted out of love and fun.
Well, that's a great answer then. Thank you. That's a great answer actually. Short, sweet and to the point. I love it. Thank you. But how much do we come from fear though? And we come from fear a lot as human beings, don't we?
Yeah, that definitely is a problem for humanity. Has been a problem and still is a problem for humanity. This fear that comes from the false idea of separation.
Thank you. Why the hell do we choose to come here?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Earth is a very unique learning ground because of the veil of separation that everyone passes through when they live on the planet. So it's almost like torture in a way, coming to Earth, because all of a sudden you lose your connection to your divinity. And but it's an incredible opportunity then to reconnect to your essence and to reconnect to the divine. It's an opportunity that life forms do not have as readily on other planets, because on most other planets you remember your connection to the divine. And so we come to Earth to put ourselves in a situation in which we're forced to reconnect with God. We're forced to remember who we are and why we were each created.
What is the most important message you could give the audience watching this?
We are one, and there's nothing more important than remembering our connection to divinity and our connection to one another.
Here's a quick question that this one might be slid into the documentary here. I look out behind you and I see all those grand buildings. I see it all. If I looked with a different dimensional eyes, if I could be like a radio and tune into a different dimension, would I see a different landscape out there with different buildings and different beings?
possible to be able to see different dimensions, different versions of reality. What we see, correlates with our internal energy and focus, and so we can shift that focus and see a different reality.
But in this same space then, maybe not on the 32nd floor, but in the same space on the ground, if we could look with a different reality, would there be different beings around us that we can't see with our eyes? Is there another reality within the same space?
It is true that we all see different realities. Indeed, what you see when you look out that window and what I see when I look out that window is slightly different based on who we each are. And so you can take that further and say that that there are different realities in the same space.
Okay then, let me ask you this then. That's interesting what you've just said there. We're getting to the final question, so we're really getting to the end here right now, because I know Kevin's been down a long time and I appreciate it. So getting to the final one. So then, okay, so we're in this room right now, we're having this amazing conversation and I'm so grateful. So Kevin walks out that door. This may be a third dimensional reality he's in right now, and because he's going to change something in his decision because he's a reality creator, when he walks out, he's entering into a different dimension than I'm in. He's shifting something in his reality. Do we shift from different dimensions as we change our decisions and come from love in a different perspective?
Without a doubt. Yes, we do. We truly can totally transform our reality by shifting internal decisions and by connecting to different vibrations and frequencies inside of ourselves. Without a doubt.
So Kevin's consciousness, if you want to call it this way for us small human minds, Kevin's consciousness is constantly shifting into different realities as he makes different decisions.
Yes, that's true. That is true.
How many times is Kevin shifting between different realities as an example of someone in their normal life shifting? Per day, how many would you say?
How many times do we shift reality per day? We can shift reality with every thought. So that's a hard question to answer. It's different for different people. It's different for each person on a daily basis. That is why it's so important, or it can be life-changing, to consciously decide to shift one's reality on a daily basis.
So the Kevin that I speak to now, I speak to him in a few days' time. It may be a bit of a different soul perspective or different Kevin consciousness in there, because he's shifted a decision and the consciousness that was Kevin I was speaking to has moved on to somewhere else, and another version's come in. And
yeah, and that is definitely what Kevin longs for is to say to the beings that surround him, okay, I've learned my lesson. I'm ready to shift into another reality starting now.
Is Kevin ready?
Yes, indeed. I entered this weekend with a commitment to shift. So, yes, I believe I'm ready.
Is that why Kevin's here now? Because he shifted?
That's a good question. Or Kevin is shifting now.
What final thing would you like to say? Would you like to say anything before we close down this connection?
No, they're just telling me that they're just repeating themselves. But now I have a different understanding. And they're just telling me that they're excited about me being me. They're excited about what I'm here to do, what I'm here to show, who I am, and what I'm capable of sharing. They're just sending me that message. And they're sending humanity the message that it's time for us all to shift.
Well, brother, that is a beautiful message. And I'd just like to say to everyone that's communicating through Kevin right now, just thank you so much for sending Kevin this way, for helping Kevin to heal, and for bringing the messages through that you have for this documentary. Much love to you and to Kevin.
And to you. And to you.
Good.